I know. The majority of you probably don't care about Manchester United's results in the Premier League anymore. We are not going to be relegated and we have nothing to play for. So what's the point, right? But if you are someone like me, someone who is looking ahead already at next seasons, looking at ways we can improve either through tactical tweaks or by targeting certain profiles of players, then these kind of games can definitely provide some really insightful observations. Without any further ado, let's analyze. All right, so let's get started with this tactical analysis video. And the first thing we're going to focus on is how the Manchester United players were able to adapt and solve a variety of problems when it came to beating the opposition's press in the build-up phase. Because I think that this is a skill that any elite team needs to master. And I think that it's really fascinating to see Manchester United's tactical growth in this aspect. And of course, on my Twitter/X account, @ScarletReport, I'm leaving the handle in the description if you want to follow me. I talked yesterday during the game about how I was really surprised by the role that Victor Lindelof and Kobbie Mainoo played in allowing us to progress the ball from our own defense. And here I'm going to highlight that. So what we can see here in this sequence is obviously Manchester United again building up in the back three formation here with Ugarte dropping to form a back four. But what's really interesting here is Lindelof's role in beating the press, because what Lindelof did in this sequence is actually use his dribbling ability to just progress and penetrate the Wolves' aggressive press. And this is a skill. Now here I'm not highlighting Lindelof, the player. I'm highlighting what he did. I'm not saying, okay, let's sign him up on a contract. I'm pretty sure that his time at Manchester United is up. But I think that a team like Manchester United, if you want to play the way Ruben Amorim wants to play, we definitely need to have defenders who can progress with the ball, who have that explosivity to kind of penetrate, in between the lines of the opposition, the way Lindelof does it. I think Heaven does it well. Obviously, Lisandro Martinez is great, but he's now missing over the past 3 seasons on average, half a season every season. So he's not as dependable as we hope he could be. Mazraoui, also Euro could develop into that player, but we definitely need at least 2 center backs every game who can do what Lindelof just showed currently. The second player is, of course, Kobbie Mainoo, because I think Kobbie Mainoo's role in allowing us again to progress the ball from these areas into the opposition's final third was excellent. In that here what we have is Kobbie Mainoo, look, as soon as he passes the ball to Frederiksen, who again was amazing, he moves swiftly into this space right here, constantly moving and positioning himself in between the lines. And then here he positions himself in this triangle, right in between the lines as well as in the half space, which is actually quite a dangerous position for a player of Kobbie Mainoo's talents to be in. He receives the ball, drags players towards him, and then an angular pass towards the free Garnacho, and then we are able to get a free kick in a very dangerous situation. So again, the second way that the Manchester United players were able to bypass that press is by having dynamism in the forward areas. And that's definitely something that we need to improve on ahead of next season. Now, the third one is something that I have highlighted in my video analysis of the Lyon game. Basically, if you remember Lyon, the Ugarte goal was with a move like this from Bruno Fernandes. It was Mazraoui who found him. And then the second one, of course, Diogo Dalot's move was, of course, Diogo Dalot making a similar run with Harry Maguire finding him from deep. Now here, Leny Yoro saw Diogo Dalot's move here, but I think that he hesitated a little bit, so he didn't end up making the pass. So we go back into that 3-4 shape that Ruben Amorim favors. We recycle position, but then in the process, as you can see here, we are dragging the Wolves players towards our half. Now here, the movement from Leny Yoro is very important. Now we've seen the center back who plays in the middle in this Ruben Amorim defensive trio often likes to drop into this defensive midfield position, basically to create diagonal passing lane, sorry. So here, whether Mazraoui gets the ball or Frederiksen, it's easier for them to find Leny Yoro. That way we can create some verticality. However, in this sequence, Onana is going to go with Mazraoui. So plan A didn't work, which is Leny Yoro going long towards Diogo Dalot. Plan B didn't work as well, which is playing those diagonals towards Leny Yoro, who was dropped into the defensive midfield position. Now, plan C, Mazraoui going long towards Mason Mount over here, but then Chido Obi does something that unfortunately, it doesn't matter how much I defend him, Hojlund hasn't been doing consistently for us, which is hold that play. Now, you have to understand this position right here and this play by Chido Obi is immense in a Ruben Amorim system, because Ruben Amorim relies a lot on direct play. in order for him to relieve the pressure of his defensive line. And for that, you need a striker who can hold up the play. This is why someone like Gyökeres was so instrumental to Ruben Amorim's success. And I think Manchester United will definitely look for a target man type of striker in the summer. But anyway, lays the ball off to Christian Eriksen towards the impressive Amas. And as you can see here, because of that play between Mazraoui, Mason Mount, and Chido Obi, we are creating the space in that effectively the Wolves structure is divided into their attackers and their defensive line. Don't forget that they play the same system as us. So obviously we were able to bypass their whole defensive structure. Now, Garnacho has been, again, immense in this game, and I'm going to talk more about him in a minute. Positions himself in a way where he can receive the ball from Amas, and then he just takes everyone by surprise by just dribbling past Andre. And then this ball right here towards Bruno Fernandes should have been a goal. And here we have two ghosts running towards Onana. But anyway, the reason I showed you those sequences before is not just to highlight the good, i.e. how can Manchester United create chances and bypass the opposition's press through the build-up. It's also to show this. I don't know if you guys remember, but that historic victory that Ruben Amorim had over Guardiola at Sporting, 5-1. The one goal that Manchester City scored was because Sporting Lisbon could not actually clear the ball or build up from the back. Okay, so they lost the ball, and Phil Foden, I believe, is the one who scored the goal. In my tactical analysis of Ruben Amorim's system, prior to him joining, I used the game against PSV Eindhoven. Same thing. PSV Eindhoven, I think it was Schouten who, again, scored from the same situation, which is Sporting not being able to clear from the back. And again, I think that this is a weakness that the Ruben Amorim system has, because what we saw here in the build-up to Wolves' goal, what we see is this. Again, we do have that same structure here with Mazraoui having the ball. So far, everything's so good. He goes towards Bruno Fernandes, who controls the ball. He has time to assess his options, and then he goes back towards Mazraoui. Now, here we have a problem, because first of all, this whole area right here is empty. Now, Mazraoui, if you ask me, should have probably played it safe. Just go back towards Onana, okay? Always. This should be by default. But also here, I think that Lindelof and Eriksen should have done better, because this huge space right here, one of them should have made a move, preferably Eriksen, because he's here, he's obsolete. I mean, what are you trying to do over there, okay? Just move forward, just 3-4 yards forward. That's going to drag this Wolves player away. Therefore, it's going to leave with Mazraoui with a little bit more time and space on the ball. Just create that verticality. That means here there should have been one Manchester United player. Mazraoui doesn't have really a choice besides Onana. He goes long towards Chido Obi, and then Wolves are able to recover the ball. And then the ball comes towards Cunha. Cunha in these situations is extremely dangerous, especially against Frederiksen, who has been absolutely amazing. Where did this kid come from? But of course, you're not going to put a 20-year-old on his debut against a player like Cunha. You know, there's only one winner, and that's free kick for Wolves, and that's how they were able to score. So again, what I'm trying to highlight here is that build-up phase is extremely vital for Manchester United. We definitely need to get better at that. And I've shown you here a few strategies of how we can do that. Let's hope that Manchester United, through a combination of transfers as well as tactical tweaks, can actually fix that, because otherwise we're not really going to be able to challenge next season. Now let's talk about Garnacho, but here I want to highlight another weakness of Manchester United, which is decision making with the last ball. Okay, so here Garnacho could have easily had 3 assists, a hat-trick of assists in this game. Absolutely electric performance from the Argentinian. So Bruno goes towards Eriksen, and then here Eriksen does what Eriksen is supposed to do, which is, that's it, just lay it towards Garnacho, and then Garnacho, beautiful immediate cross with the left towards Hojlund. Hojlund should have scored that. Should have absolutely put that in the net. We would have gotten the 3 points if that ball went in, okay? But anyway, what here I'm showing you is great decision-making from the players. Bruno Fernandes, Christian Eriksen, Garnacho, and Hojlund was 1 inch away from putting the ball in the net. But here is another example, just a minute after that, 64th minute, literally a minute later, where Christian Eriksen just made a decision. Literally, I was going to throw my slippers at the TV screen, because what he does is this. He gets the ball. That's it. Look at that. Garnacho, that run, that's the pass in between these two Wolves players. That's it. That is the ball. And yet, what Eriksen does, making absolutely crucial for Manchester United. All right, now let's talk about Rasmus Hojlund. Now, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, please forgive me. I did not include that sequence, the infamous Rasmus Hojlund sequence, where he started off with a beautiful pork chop. Yes, I'm going to call it pork chop. I'm going to die on that hill, okay? With that beautiful pork chop. But then again, he could have squared it to Dorgu, who could have scored, okay? In that 10 seconds, we have the absolute best and the absolute worst of Rasmus Hojlund. Now, obviously, we do have a Rasmus Hojlund-shaped problem at Manchester United. I don't think that anyone could really argue that Rasmus Hojlund is simply not performing for Manchester United. Now, of course, we have to think about solutions, especially mid-season. There isn't much that you can do. Ruben Amorim himself said that he's working a lot with Rasmus Hojlund, that he's showing him a lot of video analysis, trying to improve his movement. And we are hoping for him to score a goal or two so that, the floodgates open. But what I'm understanding is that Ruben Amorim doesn't have much to do. He cannot really bring in any other strikers mid-season. He has to wait until the summer. But I am 100% convinced that in the summer, we definitely need a more experienced striker, or at least a striker whose attributes and skill sets are a little bit more aligned with the way Ruben Amorim wants his strikers to play. But at the same time, I gotta say this. We gotta stop with the revisionism, because a lot of people are acting as if Hojlund last season did not show huge potential as a striker. Did you forget his performances? I made a video on him. Go and check it out. I do have all of the visual evidence. You need to see that he was an absolute monster last season and he missed big chunks due to injury. In fact, I'm going to use my boy, Florian Wirtz from Leverkusen. In fact, when this channel started, it was called Everything Football. And one of my first successful videos was a Florian Wirtz video, which was 3 years ago. Just to tell you how much of a fan I am of Florian Wirtz and how much I've been following his career. Great talent. But did you know that he hasn't scored in the past 10 games? His last goal was in January. He's currently suffering a massive dip in form, while last season, as Leverkusen were undefeated and went to the final of the Europa League, he was actually shortlisted for the Ballon d'Or. And what I'm trying to say here is that young players are extremely erratic. They go through phases where they're performing, in an electric fashion and they look like world beaters. And then sometimes they have a drop in form because they still haven't figured out, how to deal with the mental side of the game. And that's definitely what Rasmus Hojlund is suffering from. I don't know if you are active on X on Twitter, but the guy is active on X on Twitter. I think that not long ago, he actually responded. He DM'd an account that was criticizing him. Nobody who's mature enough would ever do that. You just ignore people on the internet, right? I know, believe me, okay? And yet he responded. This just shows a lack of maturity. And it shows that a lot of the discourse online is actually getting to his head. And you have to just understand that what we say online has a huge effect. It's great power that you are wielding here. It's either you use it for good or you use it for bad, okay? And I feel that the majority of Manchester United fans online are much more inclined to criticize players than support them. And I think this has a massive effect on players, and especially someone like Rasmus Hojlund. So what I'm trying to say here about Rasmus is that, yes, he has been underperforming as of late, but last season he showed that he is a massive talent. I think he needs support, both in terms of coaching support, but also support, i.e. a striker who is able to take on most of the load and just be the striker who is on the spotlight, to allow Rasmus Hojlund to build up his confidence in behind the scenes and work on his craft as a striker. But I think that for us Manchester United fans, the only thing really we can do is to support the players, okay? I hope that you've enjoyed this tactical analysis video. If you did, please give it the thumbs up and leave a comment in the comment section below. Until next time, cheers.